Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a multi-stream on Football Inc. and Spurs Talk Show. I hope you are all happy and healthy doing the things that you love. I'm back with Jonny H3232, member of both channels. Got co-host of one, part of the furniture of the other. How you doing, Jonny?
I'm okay. Typical last night. I don't know what's happened to my camera there. I look like I'm just falling off of a cliff. Hang on a second. Just trying to arrange that one.
All sorts of technical problems going on in the world of StreamYard at the moment. All sorts of chaos.
What was I going to say to you? Yeah, I mean, listen, typical last night. Unfortunately, I had a prior arrangement and I had a funeral to go to yesterday. So I passed Michael Bridge doing his waiting outside, waiting for here we go. Nothing had happened. I went out, and of course, as soon as I got into where I had to be last night, the here we go from Spurs came out, and all hell broke loose. And of course, I missed it. So.
No one could talk about it, mate. StreamYard was down all last night, unless I think Saba was quick off the draw and got himself a new account with a different streaming company or something. But for everyone that uses StreamYard, it was free. It was easy pickings for the smartest minds in the room, like Saba, to go and get himself a new setup because no one else could do nothing for a few hours. It was absolutely wild. Mate, so, how are you, mate? You good?
Yeah. Welcome Thomas the Frank Engine to White Hart Dane. That's what we'll be calling it now.
White Hart Dane. I like that. I haven't heard that one. Very good. Mate, lots to talk about. Lots of stories out. We've got Christian Romero's come out with a statement. We've got a bit about Daniel Levy and Bayern Munich with regards to Matisse Tell. We've got players linked left and right from Brentford. It feels like we're going to become Brentford Hotspur FC, as we've got 7 of their backroom staff. We're linked with Damsgaard, Norgard, Visser, and Bumo. Lewis Potter. The Irish fella who plays at the back, and another one now this morning, Yarmouk, the central midfielder. We've got loads more transfer news, views, and clues. But before we get into it, guys, please do us the solids that you always do. Smash the granny out of the like button for us, if you don't mind. Hit the subscribe on both channels. In fact, that's what I forgot to do. I need to pin the links into the chat for you so you can make it easy to get over the football link if you are here on Spurs Talk Show or vice versa. Jonny, let's just, before we get into the transfer news, views, and clues, how much do you think is fundamentally going to change, and what specifically do you see changing, not just within the tactics of the team, but within the ecosystem that surrounds Tottenham Hotspur? Do you see, new relationships, different styles of relationships with the various DOFs and the scouts and the coaches, the performance people that are coming in? Are we looking for new medical? What's the kind of long and the short, the nuts and the bolts of the change that we're going to go through here?
I think it's a massive change. The one thing I never understood about Ange was he never worked with a team. He didn't bring his team wherever he went, whichever club he went to. Top coaches generally have a team around them. You look at Ancelotti, brings his team. Conte, Mourinho works with a lot of the same people. Many coaches, and Ange didn't have that. What he did, he got Montgomery in from Hibernian after they got sacked because they were not good enough, and he just brought them in, and never worked with them before. You'll do, and basically said, look, I'll teach you my philosophy, and then you can go and teach that to the squad. I thought that would never work, and it turned out that it didn't. Yeah, we won a trophy, but take that aside. The defeats, and 34 defeats over 2 seasons says otherwise. What you're getting with Thomas Frank is a team assembled that work together. Some, the data analyst has been with him for like 6 years. Cochrane's been with him for a number of years. Right? There's a whole team that's assembled that do not need to go and question Thomas Frank, and Thomas Frank doesn't need to go and question them. He trusts them, they trust him. So you have not lots of different forces working separately or trying to learn stuff. They understand how each other works, and that's a massive bonus, because what we're going to have now is we're going to have a team that has played one way for the last 2 years, more or less one way. And what they're going to have to learn now is various systems, whether it be 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, how to change systems during the game, how to set yourself up differently. And that's going to take time. But the data analyst and everything else is a massive plus. As far
Jonny,
as
let me ask you this quickly before we move on to the data stuff, because I think that's a whole side. And I'll definitely want to come back to that in a second. Just with regards to tactics, so he definitely has sort of shifted over time, right? In the first 2 years, or first, I think it's 2.5 years of his time in the Premier League.
Yeah.
When he was in the Championship, and he was that year when they won the playoffs, he was very much a 4-3-3 guy.
Then when he came up, is that a trophy, Sean? He said he's never won anything. He won the playoffs. Isn't that something?
Do you win the playoffs?
You do win a trophy for the playoffs.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I guess you do. Yeah, true. But he was a 4-3-3 guy that season, right? So he knew he was the better, where his pecking order was in the league, and adapted. Then he came up and didn't do what people like Vincent Kompany did. Now, Vincent Kompany got rewarded for abject failure with Burnley by playing his brand of football, same as what the Southampton geezer tried to do last season and got sent down. The reality is that he then came up and then went to a back five or a back three, a 5-3-2, if you like, right? We'll call it simplify, a 5-3-2. Then as he got more comfortable, he pivoted to a 5-2-3 or a 3-4-3. And then latterly, he very much, last couple of years, has very much been more of a 4-2-3-1 guy. So you're absolutely right to say that he's got everything in his wheelhouse, as you would hope all managers do. My question is disseminating that information. Now, I think you made the point on a previous show. I'm sure you're going to go into it now, that it's a lot easier to do that if you're bringing your coaching staff with you. With regard to players, because most of our players are fairly wet behind the ears.
Correct.
Is that going to be like an amplifier, like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like an expedite of that transition because they're young, they're sponges, they want to learn, or is it going to be a bit of a hindrance and a block? The fact that they don't have that much experience in learning different systems.
I think having played what I would class as a lazy system. I mean, when you only have to play one system and it's not really changing. I mean, the only time it changed was by default when they had all the injuries and they had no choice but to play pragmatic football in the latter stages of the season. But when you look at the way that they set up, I would say that it will be difficult for them to learn. But if you listen to Thomas Frank, and I've listened to him probably since he took over from Dean Smith in the Championship when he had that terrible start, he believes in layers, right? As adding layers each and every, he says each and every year, but I would think
every transition, right? Every segment of his journey.
But the layers, what he's talking about is, so say, for example, like our one thing is like defensively, we're not very good. So whether or not that means for him, we start with a 5-3-2 or a back three, and we work with the two wing backs, which I think will suit the system anyway and stop us inverting. Yeah. I think what he will try to do is to build the solidarity first, and then add those layers. I just think that it's going to take time. What we saw with Ange Postecoglou was an incredible start, based with a bit of luck. Sheffield United, the late goal, Liverpool, the VAR and the ref controversies that got us that 8 wins and 2 draws in the first 10 games. What we saw then was we saw instant progression and then regression over the next 18 months. I think what we're going to see with Thomas Frank is a jittery start potentially, whilst players get used to it. But I think as the season goes on, I think we'll start to see progression in play. And that will come about from them having to learn all the different systems. I think it'd be interesting to see how he gets on with Brennan Johnson. You know, is the fact that he tried to sign Brennan Johnson 2 or 3 times a reason for him maybe not to go for someone like Bryan Mbeumo, because he feels that he could, did he view, for example, Brennan Johnson as a successor to Bryan Mbeumo in his head? I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying maybe he saw that, because with Brentford, you have a succession model, and Brahma Mbeumo was always going to be sold for big money, and then he would fit into that place. Same with Archie Gray. Will he play with 2 6s? It's going to be interesting to see what he does, to be honest with you. But what you know is that there's nowhere to hide with them, with the data.
But I want to come on to, because the data part is a massive segment. We've got to spend a long time today talking about that. I just want to ask you a couple more questions about the style and the strategy, though, mate, if you don't mind, before we pivot into the data. So I just feel like from what I've looked into, and from what I've looked into his history, the fewest amount of games that he's played with a specific system is the back three with 3 wingers at the top, like a 3-4-3. That was like the few. Like, he's played more as a 3-5-2 with Wissa and Mbeumo sort of thing at the top end of the pitch, doing what they can, going wide when necessary, but obviously cutting in and being bullshit at the top. And then he did a lot of the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 when he was in the Championship, 4-2-3-1 more recently. What I worry about a little bit is that if he does pivot to a 3-5, a 3-5-2, I worry then that we've like I said, we've said this 1,000 times in the last couple of weeks, Johnny. We've got like 10, 11 wingers at the club, haven't we, already, right? And we're clearly looking that the direction of travel, if any of the rumours are to be believed, is that we're looking for people that can add more guile to the width, i.e. via Semenyo. I think the Eze story makes so much sense, because at the moment we're going to start the season in all likelihood without a recognised 10, and so Eze can do that. Semenyo probably can't. We experimented with Odebear. It probably was a failed experiment. And so, getting back to your Johnson thing, Johnson is also someone that, has been thought of as being able to play as like a forward man, hanging off the right-hand side, but more of that suitable to the second man in the 2. And I think Matisse Tell is also someone, I don't agree with this, but the Bayern lot have been saying that he's a 9 or he's a forward, not a winger. I think he's been better off the width, personally. But when you see the story out today that Tottenham, that from the Bayern hierarchy, saying that we're in discussions with Daniel Levy about that, it clearly looks to me like Matisse Tell is probably going to end up a permanent signing. Now, we can chew over whether that's relevant or not. But do those 2 players, Matisse Tell and Johnson, because of their somewhat versatility to be able to kind of do that forward man role as well as playing off the width, do you think that there's a higher likelihood that Tottenham are going to see more of the 3-5-2 rather than the 3-4-3 of the 2 options when it comes to a back 3 model?
I think what you're going to find is that what he's fantastic at, Thomas Frank, is adaptation. So I've watched him, as I said, since the Championship he took over from Dean Smith, where he was losing players, whether it be Ollie Watkins or, he has a very tight squad. He probably has a 15, which are his main core. And as soon as that starts getting affected, the season where he lost Ivan Toney, Wissa and Mbeumo, and Rico Henry were all out injured. It's a massive, massive, massive blow. Okay. A club like Brentford, can't cope with that, really. And what he did was he changed the entire system out to make it a system of survival, because that's all he had. And I think what you'll find with Thomas Frank is he will set up the system. He will look at the squad. Don't forget James Maddison. We don't know if he'll start the season. Kulu 100% won't start the season. So we're basically starting. Hopefully, Bergvall will be fit by then. But that would mean we have no creativity in the middle of the park at all starting. So he might have to set up to start the beginning of the season completely different to how he envisages going from say October onwards. So I think we're going to see evolution, not revolution. At the club.
When's he going to get the players? Like, when is day one for with all the players back, or most of the players back that aren't at the various, if there's any internationals or whatever?
I think they're going to. I mean,
July the 1st, or is it before then?
Some are back. I mean, players like Romero, who and Richarlison, who were at the World Cup qualifiers, Bentancur.
They haven't had their 2-week break yet, have they?
No, so they're going to have another 2 weeks off. So I reckon they'll be back maybe first week of July. Something like that, maybe.
So then you got what? You got 6 weeks, and when's the Super Cup? The 12th, isn't it? The 13th of August.
13th of August.
Okay, so you got 6 weeks.
But I honestly think, look, Thomas Frank, the way he works, they call him the professor for a reason, right? Intricate detail. He would have known, even though he's not the Spurs manager, he would have known everything about Spurs from the fact that Brentford played Spurs. I mean, what he tried to do when we played them last season, it didn't work, obviously, but we played them away. They got in 35 crosses, Sean.
Yeah.
35 crosses. So he obviously saw the weakness coming from the flanks, utilising the space that we leave behind. He's not going to be doing that. Yeah, he's just not going to be doing that. I just look forward to someone like Destiny Udogie playing the way I saw him play at Udinese, when he's like hugging that touchline, picking up the ball and driving at defences. I would expect to see, if we do get Odobert, Tell and Odobert playing, I expect them to be playing in a similar role to how you see Brian Mbeumo playing, cutting inside. I don't expect back post Johnson constantly. Actually, I've got to say, I saw something which gave me encouragement the other day. I saw Wales playing Belgium, and guess what? Brendan Johnson went past players. He was taking.
I saw that as well. Yeah,
he was taking players on.
I don't think Thomas Frank, when you've seen the clips of him on the training ground, especially when they're at that summer camp, and it was they were clearly in like Spain or something.
Yeah.
Thomas Frank looks so engaged in training. He's so amped up. Like, yes, get it, Johnson, get it. You could just imagine him. You can imagine Johnson not being able to rest on his laurels. Yeah. Like if Johnson's doing the kind of the Shetland pony or the dressage thing, I just think that Thomas Frank will just sniff that out in 30 seconds.
He won't stand for it. He won't stand for it, Sean. Yeah. Right? He's a soft guy, right? But he has standards. Right, he has standards, and if you don't work, I mean, what he does is he looks at the work that people are doing, and if they look at the eye test, in whether it's in training, if you look at training, or you look at a game, he will use the eye test first to approach him with the eye test, and then his guy who does the clips, his clipboard guy who he's had for a long time, who provides the video clips. That will be mixed with the data, and then they sit down with the player and they say, look, right, with my eyes, I saw this. Here's the video, and here's the data that shows you're not doing what I asked you to do. You're not putting in the effort, right? And he'll ask them, he'll show them, he'll confront them with it, and he'll expect them to actually improve on it. And if they don't, then they'll suffer the consequences of it, because unlike at Brentford, where he doesn't have an abundance of choices, as you rightly said, there's a lot of choices to be made on our wings. But for me, I think he's identified already. I don't believe he hasn't. He needs a 6. More than anything, we need a 6. We need a monster 6. Yeah, whether or not he will be, I don't think he's going to go for big name players, personally. I think he's the type of guy that likes to develop players anyway, 17 years developing kids in Denmark. I actually think that we might actually see a manager that turns up at the academy games. That would be novel, huh? We're looking at.
I think that. So I posited the other day. This notion, I actually did a quick video on it a couple of nights ago. Like there's the argument that Thomas Frank is a great developer of talent, is predicated on the support of the notion of look what he did by buying these players at 6 or 10, and they're going to go for 30 or 40. And I was like, well, that's fine, but how do we know that that's, or what percentage of that is down to the players just being Goliaths? We just didn't know about them before they came under the Brentford purview. And then I said, well, let's look at someone that's doing something similar at Brighton in Graham Potter, and it hasn't really worked out. It didn't work out at Chelsea, but that was crazy scenario for him, and it certainly hasn't really worked out yet. He's only been there a little time at West Ham, so I wasn't suggesting it's all data at all, but I think there's an element to it. But the flip side of that potential unknown negative, there's also a potential unknown massive positive, which is, especially now that we're bringing the 6 or 7 people with him, and one of them is the performance guy, is that, like, it's not like Brentford or Brighton, Johnny, have got access to data that we don't get or we can't have. Like, they're just using third-party data things. It's how you interpret the data. It's the algorithms that are being used, which is obviously like a proprietary thing, and then it's the way that you use it to your advantage. And obviously, Tottenham, as you've said 100 times, and I completely agree with you, is that there's a positivity bias from the current usage in that the players are identified, and then please run the data to support the argument. Whereas, and this isn't just for talent ID, but this is obviously for plugging vulnerabilities within the tactics during the game, post game, in the analysis. Well, this is what you did last week. This is what you got to do better because this is all the yada yada yada. So I make the counter argument to my own previous argument that actually maybe this data the people. It's not the data is just numbers, right? It's how you read it, how you use it that is where the value is.
Present it. Sure.
Exactly. And present 100%. And so, to me, I think maybe not only will our talent scouting become more proficient, you hope, but on top of that, just the ability to see week-on-week improvements in the performances of players who are getting real-time feedback from people that know what they're looking for and what it means, and then say it in a way that translates to players who need it to be explained to them at a certain level of complexity, so that everyone can yield the benefit from it. So I'm really excited to see because I think there'll be a slow start. I'm entirely honest, Johnny. I think that when there's so much to learn, so little time to learn it, the first game is the Super Cup. It could be a slow start for Thomas Frank, but I think you're going to see, unlike at Ange, where it was like this and then like that. After that, I think with Frank, it might be like this, and then it'll be like that.
Have you seen our? I thought I'd mention this now because I didn't mention it before. Excuse me, I've got a bit of hay fever. Our pre-season is the toughest pre-season I think I've ever seen. Instead of playing some Pirates in Singapore or some other unknown team, we're playing Arsenal. We're playing Newcastle, Bayern Munich. That's what I've seen so far before the Super Cup
and PSG. Yeah,
right. So I mean, that is a very, very tough baptism, even at pre-season. I think anyone would say that those 4 opening games were going to be tough. But maybe that's what he needs. Does he need that? Will the fans give him time? I don't want to see a Nuno because, with Nuno, what I'll give him credit for, Nuno, unfortunately for him, Daniel Levy didn't allow him to bring his assistant coach with him, which seemed madness. Maybe Daniel Levy's learnt this time by allowing him to bring his entire backroom team. I think there's one guy that's been left behind. I keep forgetting his name now. Who might maybe get the manager's job? Who knows with Brentford? But I think Cochrane with his background working with Spurs and the England setup, I think it can only be a plus. And I think the ability with he worked with the youth, with Frank with the youth. What is the point of producing an academy, Sean, if you're not going to embrace it? And I think maybe this is what the club really needed at this moment in time. Andrew's taken away, maybe giving some credit for some of the mentalities changed now. with the belief that they can do something, is how welcoming will they be, these players, now with the new coach? That's the question.
Interesting, mate. I'll extend that. I've just put a poll out saying, will the Spurs fans give Thomas Frank time? Yes, no, or unsure. So make sure you participate, guys. In every conversation we're having, I want to see you moving your own comments alongside what we're speaking about. And here's a question, like, to extend your point there, Jonny. When it comes to, was the manager backed, right? Do we have to wait for the confirmation from the manager that no player comes through this team comes through this club unless I've said so, like with Ange, even though despite all of that, despite Ange saying, yes, I'm happy with the philosophy, I'm happy with the pivot to youth-centric, no player's going to be approved without my say-so, all that, then at the end of the summer, as soon as the season started to go on the decline around November time, all of a sudden it was, the people that have got the Levy out the drum, they're always waiting to be banged again. Well, the club didn't back the manager in the summer. And look, they may or may not be. They probably are right about that with regards. We went too hard on the youth stuff for sure. We didn't buy anyone that was a top draw player, maybe absent Solanke, pending your thoughts on him. But with Thomas Frank and the fact that there's this data stuff that all these people are going to come and they're going to know the Brentford model, right? So like part of the value here is they're what is it exactly? What's in the special sauce of Brentford's talent ID? If we end up buying someone like Victor Froholt, if we end up buying someone from, or even from Brentford, if it is someone like a like a Lewis Potter or whatever, do the fans have to sort of do the same, or should we expect the fans to be able to say, look, on this one, let's just leave it to the experts rather than let's assume that there's a reason why Victor Froholt, because Brentford know what they're fucking doing. So if we've got half of Brentford, then Tottenham know what they're doing.
Listen, we are fans, okay? They are specialists, okay? We always know better. We always know better. In our minds, we know better. Listen, I remember when you and I were talking about Milenkovic. Well, we don't want him coming to Spurs. We don't want him coming to Spurs. And then he goes to Forest. And then he has an outstanding season. Why didn't we sign him? There's always going to be that narrative. I think the thing is that we're mixing up data analysis to find players and data analysis of players' performance and where they're going wrong within the game. I think you're still going to find that we will run our own data. I still believe that Fabio will be there doing his thing. And I think that Thomas Frank will accept, he will be involved in the decision making, but he will not always have final say, I don't believe.
Nor should he.
I agree.
Kids, right? Nor should he.
I agree because with the life expectancy of the average coach is 18 months. Yeah. We have to look at a long-term view. As long as we have decided that we're going to be a progressive club and the players that we're signing are with a view to that ethos going forward. But I think that Thomas Frank won't demand big, expensive players. I just don't think he will. I think he's the type of manager that likes to develop and work with them. If he can see the potential in them, and they will look at the data, they will present these players, but he's smart enough with his guys, with his data guys, to look at the players and decide who they want and who they don't want. I mean, they've been coming up to Spurs. They've been at the training ground since last Monday. And, as I said to you before, when Thomas Frank plays any club, he knows the insides and outs of that club. That's how deep he dives. So he could have probably given you an analysis of Tottenham Hotspur the day he came into that club, before doing his deep, being there in person with the players. He will know strengths and weaknesses of the team, and who's good, who he'd like to keep. I bet you in his head now, he will already have a good idea. Whereas someone like Ange, who we know, I'm not disrespecting Ange here. I'm just giving it as an alternative. Ange always says, I don't care about the opposition teams. I play how we want to play, right? And I worry about our game. Whereas Frank is the complete opposite of that. And second of all, when Ange came into the team, he hadn't studied. He wasn't studying, with great respect, Premier League football, right? He was studying, the Scottish League and others. Yes, he probably watched the Premier League. I'm not saying he didn't, but he didn't study in depth. Whereas Thomas Frank has done, for a number of years. So he knows the players. So I don't think it's going to take him as much time as it took Ange to decipher his best team. I mean, if you remember, he got to the Fulham game in the Cup in the first season where he changed 9 players and said, oh, well, I needed to change the 9 players because I needed to see how my team were because I hadn't had a chance to look at my team. Well, hang on, you had the whole of pre-season. Did you really need to make 9 changes for that game? It took him quite a long while. And let's be honest, 2 years in, Sean, I'll ask you the question. Did Ange Postecoglou, even after 2 years, really know his best midfield? It changed that many times.
Well, I think there was a lot of injuries and things he had to contend with. I think as time went on, Bergvall was not his first choice. And I think that, well, I mean, I maybe this is my opinion rather than his opinion.
I'm talking about over 2 years, how long it took him to arrive at that decision.
Yeah, well, I think he started out with Bissouma, Bentancur, and Maddison. But then I think that, there was obviously injuries along the way to the top, the guy in the 10. But then Bissouma let himself down, right? He turned up late for training. He had a car accident or a flat tire or something. There was traffic. And I remember Bissouma saying, Ange said to me, if you want to be a leader of this team, then you have to have respect, know the club rules, and get here, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the excuses are. So I think that Bissouma's, and then the balloon thing as well, Bissouma's attitude, I think, probably put him down the pecking order. And then after that, I think that this is one of those things where I think Ange knew that he was wrong, but couldn't bring himself to admit it or demonstrate that it was wrong. Because I think that him not having a 6 forced Bentancur to play in the 6, right? And then when Bergvall emerged, he was clearly an 8, and he benefited from having that more progressive freedom. But I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll stick to it. Bentancur is nowhere near as good in the 6 as a load of Tottenham fans think he is. And like I say, so I think
the match again, by the way, for Uruguay, second time on the trot, by the way.
Yeah, no, I heard he had a good game. He was playing in the 8 though, right?
Well, he seems to flip. I mean, when you watch him play, I mean, he just seems to be, he's picking the ball up off of the back 4.
Yeah.
Or he's so versatile. I mean, he looks.
I don't think he is versatile, mate. I think he is an 8. I think he's just got the DNA of an 8. When he's shoehorned into the 6, I think he's a good player, so he can challenge people and be physical, but. He's napping when we have the ball, but it's not in that position. Listen, for South American players playing in South America for their countries, the more consistency comes out, and there's a level of passion that's just not represented when they're playing for their clubs. It's just country before club.
Do you forget how he was before the injury?
No, he's great, but in an 8, he's great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be getting rid of him. Let's put it like this. So my argument was that Ange Postecoglou never knew what his best midfield was because he never accepted he needed a 6 over 2 years. He needed an out-and-out monster 6.
Yeah.
Right? So we had all these permutations trying to fit square pegs in round holes. I don't think you're going to get that. I don't think you're going to get that from Frank, to be honest with you. I think he's straight away.
Double pivot. If he plays in the double pivot, especially if he has a 6, if he has a 3-man defense, then, well, this is the argument. It's been calling for a monster 6 for so long, depending on how frequently he'll play with the back 3, which I think will probably be not as frequent as he plays with the back 4. But if he does play with the back 3, then the sort of 6 that you'll probably be better off getting is more of a ball-playing Pirlo type 6, like a Holmond, or like a Hugo Larsson as a ball player, rather than a Polinia who's not a ball playing 6, Johnny. He's just an enforcer, Yeah. But then the question mark is, well, if you're going to do that, then you need one of your back 3 to be someone who comes forward in possession and plays as that kind of.
Well, we got that. You know, we got Romero, we got Mickey van der Ven, and we got Danso. I mean, like, we've got all three of those, you know, who do. And listen, Dragusin's had a terrible, terrible start. Let's not make any bones about it. But I think for this is a blessing in disguise for him, because when we signed him from Genoa, he was playing in a back three. He wasn't playing in a high line. This is why I couldn't understand the signing initially. Why would you buy a guy who plays in a back three, plays the central part of the back three in a standard setup, and then you're bringing him to be part of a four in a high line? No wonder he got caught out. I think Frank, he will get used well under Frank. Although, again, he won't be back for quite a long time either. So it's going to be interesting.
Do you think that Christian Romero... So I looked, there was a statement out from him. I've just read it, though. It's more of a statement around... I'll read it out to you. Let me get
it a two-footed challenge? I'll ask you, is it a two-footed challenge on Daniel Levy?
No, it's not. But it's like the title. Here's a clickbait. Christian Romero makes feelings clear with pointed post after Thomas Frank announcement. I thought that was going to be like one of those, it should never have happened, you know, sort of thing. But all he said is, Ange, thank you for these 2 incredible seasons. You're a fantastic coach, but above all, a great person who deserves the best. From day one, you paved the way despite the many obstacles that always existed and always will exist. Oh, maybe that's the... There we go.
Okay, yeah.
That's a little sign.
Yeah,
that's a little
sign. There's a little bribe there. And carry on.
Beyond everything, we won a trophy and went down in the history of this beautiful club, which is the only thing that matters. I wish you the best because you deserve the best, and thank you for everything. Look, this bit here,
that bit
is that's got to be a goodbye. That's you can't say that.
Dig at Levy. Is that a dig at Levy?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Let's be honest. It is.
Let's be honest. It's a 2-footed challenge from the sideline. Okay.
That's actually when you got that, and then you've also got his partner in crime, Mickey van der Ven, saying, it was a strange decision. Very strange. He's just won you something and he's gone, so it's a bit strange. Don't really like it, mate. I've got to be honest. I don't know why you're biting the hand that feeds you. It doesn't end well if you have a feud with Daniel Levy unless you want to go. And Romero, I think that, you know, what are we saying here? I think the Romero, that to me says Romero wants out, right?
Well, he can want out all he likes, right? Okay. Europe doesn't have any money. Atletico Madrid, for all the talk of signing him, ended up with Clement Longley. Come on. Right? Okay, give me a break. Okay, let's flip them up. Listen, talk's cheap. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay the bills. And Europe pleading poverty, but go and try and sign one of their players. Right?
Exactly.
The price is through the roof. So unless they're swapping him for someone massive, you know, if he's going to Real Madrid and they want to send us some top talent, I can't see it. I really can't see it. Listen, Levy will play tough with him. He's got the World Cup this season, end of this season. We've got Champions League football. There's no reason for him to leave. End of next season, you know, we have 1 year left on his contract. But a year's a long time in football. Make him captain. So bye-bye, Sonny. If we get a good offer from Saudi, make him captain and maybe try and change his mindset with the new manager. I'm just worried now that these players are going to give Thomas Frank time or the time of day, because he's going to make them work a lot harder in a different way mentally, right? You know, if you went into work every day and I said to you, I just want you to do this, Sean.
Yeah.
Right? I just keep repeating. There's all I want you to do is this.
Yeah, it's like data entry, isn't it? Boring as fuck. Yeah,
right.
give me something to do.
Then you turn up day one and this guy goes, no. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. When you're over here, I want you to do it. And we're going to set up as a 3. But actually, when we're out of possession, we're going to be a 5. And when we attack, I want the triangles here, and here. I can't see us selling him.
I think that you can't behave like that as a player and constantly have little digs. Daniel Levy's not an idiot. That will get back to him. It's not the first time. That's the second time in a few months.
Yeah.
He's pushing for a move. And I think he wants Daniel Levy to go, fuck him, sell him. But then because he knows that the buyers, that the clubs don't have the money, he's hoping that because he says these things, that he's going to get a £40 million bid. But that's not going to happen when Jared Branthwaite, who's been earmarked to be his replacement, who we should talk about in a second, is going to cost 70 million. And Gahey's already turned us down. And
you're not selling him for 40. Listen, right? Whatever all of you think about Christian Romero, right? For me, he's up there in the top in the world. Okay, I know loads of people disagree. That's my opinion, right? And football's all about opinions. Okay, he ain't going for no £40 million, right?
Well, I know he's not, but I'm saying he's pushing for that, isn't he? He's doing this. I think he's doing this by some sort of poor advice. By saying, "Oh, if I keep making these little digs, then Daniel Levy's going to be like, get him out of my club, and I'll accept the lower bid." But I don't think he knows what sort of beast Daniel Levy is. Daniel Levy would probably rather force him to stay, like he did with Harry Kane for a couple of years.
Well, listen, look, I don't blame Levy on this one. I'm sorry. Mark Gahey's got 1 year left on his contract. Okay, do you think he's going to sign? Everyone's talking about him going. I don't think he's going to. Yeah, exactly, Ronnie. Absolutely spot on. He's going to keep him for the season. They're not going to get rid of him this season. Not a chance.
Do you think he'll put his feet up, though, in a World Cup year? He's going to play for Argentina regardless, isn't he?
Well, he's going to play. He's going to play. Brazil have already qualified. Argentina probably almost there, practically. So, he's not going anywhere. As I said to you, Mark Gahey's got 1 year left on his contract. I think he rides that out and goes on a free at the end of the season.
I agree with you, Perchy. I don't think he deserves captainship. He's not captain material. If he's,
listen, it depends if you want to change his mindset.
He's a petulant little shit. He's like the kid who's screaming for his toy or his iPad. If you give it to him all the time, he's just gonna. You have to learn. You have to learn the pecking order of respect. I think he's a little bit above his station.
Sure, genius is flawed, mate. Always has been. Right? Look at some of the greats. Right?
He's not genius. Okay, he's not genius. He's a good player. He's a good centre back.
I don't care what you say. Right? I'll never listen to it. Right? He is a top, in my opinion. Right? Your opinion. My opinion.
We've heard you. My opinion is that he isn't as good as. Where you just roll over for him and give him the captainship after he says things like that. I think it's disrespectful. No player is bigger than the badge, Johnny. No player is bigger than the badge.
I never said that. I said
you don't reward petulance like that. If we're right in inferring that he's having a dig at Daniel Levy there.
Half the fan base don't like Daniel Levy, so half of them should be cheering. I think what you're going to have is half the fan base going, get in there, Christian Romero, right? Suddenly written now is captain material for saying that. And you'll have a half of the fan base who say, well, that's disgraceful, right? I sit somewhere in the middle where I say, players say...
Can the club reward a player with the captainship when twice in 4 months he is essentially called our owner who pays, well, actually we pay his salary, but via his paycheck, a CUNT. That's what he's doing here. And I just think that, look, park your feelings about Daniel Levy, whether you agree or disagree. It's kind of irrelevant. It's what does it look like that you've got a potential captain of the football club calling our owner out, calling the club out?
It's a veiled threat. It's a veiled comment, isn't it? It doesn't say that. It just says obstacles.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Of course, we're inferring here, but that's what it's deliberate. That's not written by him, by the way. That's written by someone's written that for him.
Right. Exactly. Right. It's inferring, just like some of these reports. I mean, do you think Richie's report thing? I mean, Richie can hardly speak any English. Do you think he wrote that?
No, exactly.
And some of the others, But look. All I'm saying to you is I think he's a top player. I think he'll stay. And we saw in that final the difference of what he made in that final. He was unbelievable in that final, and the reason why he got man of the match, right, was because of that. That's why we won. Because he led by example. So whatever he says, whatever he's done, yes, I don't agree with it, and the comments I don't agree with.
Is it captain behaviour, mate? With Harry Kane never came. Harry Kane was a brilliant captain. He never came out and said anything, despite having gentlemen's promises broken. He got on with his job. He was probably pissed off, but he still put in top draw performances. And was the best player that's ever graced the Tottenham shirt in at least 50 years.
He's a winner, mate. He's a winner.
Who, Harry Kane or Romero?
Romero's a winner. He's a winner. He just
wants to win. A winner that took 4 weeks off before the World Cup because he did like
6 finals, 6 wins, mate.
Okay,
but tournament, Copa America, team of the tournament, Copa America, player of the tournament, Copa America, the best defender in, best.
At the same time, though, mate, he plays 50% of the minutes for our club, and 85% of his injuries are self-inflicted by his bozo gene, where he tries to break players' legs unnecessarily.
Actually, that's not the case at all, because when we signed him from Atalanta, we signed him with a muscle condition that the club knew about that had to be managed, which is the fact.
He missed 3 months this season because of a stupid challenge where he hurt his own foot unnecessarily by kicking the back of whoever it was, his ankle.
I think you're right. He missed 3 months of the season because that bozo Ange Postecoglou played him and Mickey van der Ven when he was advised not to, right?
The most recent injury when he hurt his foot.
About the one where he was out for a considerable amount of time, where he should.
You're skipping over my point to get back to your narrative. I'm saying that a lot of the injuries that he has are self-inflicted by stupid decisions.
Well, by tackling.
Being overly ridiculous with his aggressiveness at times because that's that kind of crazy gene that he had.
How many bookings did he get last season?
I've got no idea.
Right, well, have a look because
he's a 50%. Is he a 50% of minutes guy or not, Johnny?
So you would sell him, not a problem.
Oh, I'm saying, for the right money, I would sell him. 100%. No one's bigger than the club, especially if you talk shit about the club.
Saying that, I never say a player.
I didn't say you did say it, but that's the basis of my argument: is that no one's bigger than the club. If you're pushing for a move because your agent or whoever it is writing spicy, like veiled digs at our owner twice. If he has an interview on the training ground, on the fucking training ground, on our training ground where he's twerking for La Liga, and he now knows that Atletico Madrid haven't got the money for him, and so he's trying to do this, which I'm inferring, could be wrong, as a way for Daniel Levy to go, fuck him off, sell him for whatever we can get. I think first of all, he's stupid. Second of all, my bigger point is that if he does stay because no one's got the money, he has sacrificed his opportunity to be a captain because it's not captain-like behaviour of our great club. That's what my point is.
We got more chance of winning something with Cuti Romero in our team, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah, but doesn't have to be as captain, does he?
You said you've sold him.
No, I'm saying no. I didn't. I said if we get 80 million quid and he wants to go, fuck him off.
Yeah, well, we're not getting 80 million.
I don't want anyone at the club who doesn't want to be here. My argument is that you don't make someone a captain, which as a reward for being a complete prick. That's what I'm saying. Do you think that's captain-like behaviour?
I just think that there's been lots of veiled digs, Sean. Right? Why are we focusing on this one?
Because this is the talking point. This is the topic.
Mickey van der Ven has said it. Let's focus on Mickey van der Ven, right?
Well, I think Mickey van der Ven. I think that needs to be a little bit addressed as well. To be entirely honest, I'm not happy with that either.
Yeah, but there's been a few of them, and my point here is there's been multiple mini digs at the owner.
Because of the manager.
The one that lit up the sky has been Cuti Romero. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
It's not lit up the sky. It's the first time we've seen it. It's just been the talking point.
It has loads of people on Twitter and stuff today. It's been like the topic of spicy conversation.
Well, I haven't seen any of that. So my reaction is entirely unique and based on just what I've read literally in the last 5 minutes. And I just think this is the latest in many different micro versions of him thinking that he is slightly above his station.
How much would you sell him for? What's the bid? What's the minimum?
70 million quid.
Okay. Yeah. So you wouldn't sell him for 40?
No, fuck that. I'd want to let him rot.
He's not rotting.
I'm kidding. I don't want him to rot.
The World Cup.
I think that if I'm Daniel Levy, though, I would say, hello, Cuti's agent. Can you explain to me what that meant, please? Is that a dig at our football club? Is that a dig at my the ambitions of? Is that what we're doing here? Like, figure out what's going on, because I just think that it's a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to offend.
What about James Maddison's? What about James Maddison's? What about what's there's been?
I have a problem with all of it, mate. I have a problem with all of it. I'm consistent. I don't prejudice because he's
sell them all.
And not sell them, but fucking buck your ideas up. Who do you think you are? You're playing. It's a privilege to play for our club.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with comments,
but especially in the defence of a guy who's got sacked, who might have lifted you a trophy, but if you if you were so in love with this geezer, then why is it that you didn't put in a shift for 22 league losses? Right? Sometimes
hang on a minute.
It's a strange decision. Is it a strange decision? Is it a strange decision? 22 league losses would have got our club relegated any other year but this one. We're the only side. Hang on, Johnny, I'm on a rant. Hang on a rant. 22 league losses would have got us relegated. These players all have a massive fucking problem now with the club for selling the guy that led us to that. How about your responsible players? You didn't put in a fucking shift. So stop having a problem with the club and start earning your fucking money in all of the competitions. These players need to fucking get a bit of a backhand.
That I totally agree with. What I don't agree with is singling out individual players, right? When you can't have a go at him for missing games and then say the same thing, saying he didn't compete because he wasn't there for the 22 losses or the
all of them. I've moved on from Romero. About all the players generally.
100%. I totally agree. I mean, how do you think I feel going to the games, home and away, and all those thousands of others who go to even more games than me because I didn't go to every single away game? To find out from Ange Postecoglou, well, we weren't even trying. We were only interested in
Think about half my season ticket money, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Making me pay for the games we're trying additional, but the ones we're not going to try, you've got to pay that money up front in June.
Listen, it's wrong. It's wrong. And, it's something that was beyond acceptable for me. And I totally agree with you. The players are culpable in that, whether or not, Ange said, don't knock yourself out or not. I'm not sure what sort of team talk he came out with. But the one thing I think to myself is, I watch Arsenal, for example, come out at the start of a game and they look like their lives depend on it. They're coming out fired up. We used to come out looking like we were on we'd taken a sedative. And you look at someone like Brentford and Thomas Frank and this design they had, this tactic where they would overload the team right from the off. And they scored, was it 3 games in the trot in the first minute or the first 2 minutes of a game? This was a tactic they devised. So he's going to have them fired up. We need to be fired up for games. It was all too lackadaisical and slow.
Let me ask you this, Super Chat. Before we get to the Super Chat, actually, guys, there's over 1,000 people here. Love to see it. We, on Football Inc., Jonny and I's second channel, where we talk, this is actually live on there as well right now, because it's an all football channel, which doesn't exclude, we don't prejudice. But we are 160 subscribers away from 2,000 subscribers. There's 1,000 people here. There must be at least a few hundred of you that are watching this on a screen. If you could just do us a favor and click in the top of the comments, the pinned comment, there's a link there to Football Inc. If you could just click on that for us, it'll open up a new tab just for a second and then smash that subscribe button. If you're watching the first talk show, get us towards 2K would be absolutely amazing way to get the weekend started for us. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. And it's the same show. So if you click on that tag, you're not missing anything. You're not going.
Yeah, you can stay over there if you want. Yes, no problem. Yeah,
stay there and watch it and help us that. So any likes, comments, and subscribe on the Football League, please. That's great. As I said, we do all football chat, but obviously today with Thomas Frank coming in is the main football story today for us.
We will be back on that one later on tonight, though, a bit later on this evening for a round of
See, this is what I'm saying. This is the split. Some will welcome it and champion it.
Yeah, because of their agendas.
Yeah, but
I out first. Romero gets club legendary status for calling out the bald parasite while still at the club. The more players that do it, the better. My captain. This is the problem, Johnny. It's the only people that are okay with Romero doing it is because they hate Daniel Levy more than they like good behaviour.
So I sit in the middle. Personally, I sit in the middle of this, right? I sit in the middle of it because, I just take it as it is what it is. Players make comments, right? but we're a better team with Cuti Romero than we are without him. That's my opinion. What else we got? We go back to
Francis Reynolds. That's not what I said. I said there's no team in the history, or every team apart from Tottenham, that has suffered 22 league defeats has been relegated. Not about points; it's about the league defeats, Francis. So let's talk about these players that are potentially coming in, mate. Because I guess the argument here is, as I said before, right? If we sign some young players, if we sign some players that are a little bit like unknowns, then are they going to be given the same treatment as what Lucas Bergvall got before we knew how good Lucas Bergvall was, or Archie Gray, or whoever else? Because you didn't back the manager. But what happens if this, under this data-driven system that now is going to be hopefully more polished? Are we going to be more tolerant and patient of those sorts of signings, or are we always going to revert back to the only reason we're getting a 21-year-old is because Daniel Levy doesn't want to buy a 27-year-old?
Right. So I think 100% we're going to get that narrative. I think with the window closed, the fan base will not be happy on the whole. I think we'll sign one name, but I don't think we keep going back to the data be more polished, right? Fabio's going to be there overseeing it, right? And they'll be discussing it, and they'll be discussing the key positions. And I think it will be more targeted, but I don't think it will be any different. But I think we got a manager here who knows exactly what he needs in the squad. And the fact that Ange was there for 2 seasons and never bought a 6 is mystifying. So I think a 6 is guaranteed this summer. I just think
in what guys do you think, like, Palini is available for 30 million quid? For what it's worth, Tottenham with Palini are Tottenham fans. There are no stories out there that Tottenham will get Palini.
I don't think it's his type of player. He likes to mold. Look, this is a project for him. So he, rather than signing an older player, he would be preferring to sign someone who's 24, 25 years of age that he can mold and improve. And I think Victor Froholt. Well, we know who we like.
He looks really good. Like when I first looked at this guy, not just because he looks a lot like Bergvall, obviously the kind of Viking look, but everything about his confidence, his ability to drive. The only thing that's different between the two players that's obvious is that this guy very clearly is more of a defensive player that loves to get his shoulder in, but doesn't slide in. He's just very strong for his age and size in the shoulder barge. Knows how to sort of like read the space and tempo it. It's I really like him, but obviously it's difficult to know what the Danish league transition is. But it didn't stop Bergvall. So,
well, I think he loves it. Listen, all I know is he loves a Dane. Højbjerg wouldn't have been any good. He didn't have the legs anymore. Would have got around him. Will Hugo Larsson be a target for Ange? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, look, Hugo Larsson is, for me, we've been looking at him for a couple of years at Tottenham, and I wish we bought him in a long time ago. He's obviously a Swedish player, not Danish, but the obvious answer. But then you don't need data for this one. This is just, if you watch European football, you'll be more than aware of this guy. Is Morten Holmund, who's a player that is just, he was great. He was great when he was playing in Demo. He was great when he was come to Germany, I think, and now he's in Portugal smashing it. And he's been linked heavily. Now, I don't know if that's because of the Danish connection or just because he's a 6 and the Danish thing, or whether it's a player that we've identified, but he's a top draw. He's so strong, mate. He's like, he probably doesn't come out of those duels without the ball.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, it's not just Sweden that's producing tremendous young talent. Denmark is producing fantastic young talent as well. And I do think that potentially Thomas Frank could tap into that. Having seen how well Bergvall has done, Kulu has done, Gyökeres, in his progression, Scandinavian football and training and academies are definitely far better than they used to be. And there's a lot of talent coming out of there. So there's a lot of top Danish players that have been going out to Germany. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we get someone left field. I think we're going to get one name that will appease the fans. And I think we'll be scattered with other players who, as Danny Rose would say, fans have to Google, but nerds like us who like looking around for players will know. I mean, I sent you two recently to have a look at that.
Yeah, Arden Jashawi.
And
that guy, by the way, fucking great spot, Johnny. I'd never heard of that guy. I don't know whether you found him or someone sent him to you or what, but his
my guy in Switzerland, shout out to him. He sent me. He said, "What do you think of this guy?" And straight away, I was like, "He's unbelievable." And then I did a deep dive and had a good look, and then I sent it to you. I mean, he's some player. He maybe carried the ball
his stats look sensational, but it's like stats in the Swiss. You kind of go, let me see what the eye test looks like. I ran him through the Y Scout, and there's nothing to dislike about him really. He makes the game look like he's got an extra second. It's like his first touch under pressure. You know, like prime Barcelona in the late 90s when they had Xavi and Iniesta.
Yeah,
they were always moving and they were doing this all the time, looking for space all the time. I don't think Arden Jashawi does that every 2 seconds, but his first touch always seems to be into space. Like he doesn't like just trap the ball; he moves it, and then goes.
The carry's insane. He's got insane carry numbers, and he's passing. If you put the name down, do you want to spell out the name? I can never remember how you spell the name.
Arden Jashawi, Shawri. Ardon gives me an Ardon.
It gives me an Ardon. Honestly, guys, go and check him out. He's a proper player. Honestly.
What's your thoughts on another link that we're linked to all the time? Middlesbrough obviously have just lost their manager in Michael Carrick, but
Hackney.
Of the Hackney, yeah.
Listen,
Hayden Hoxton Square.
Hayden Hackney. We keep being linked with him. Another one that's constantly on our radar. But again, Wolves fans get upset. You know, I wanted Adam Walton, right? Had Spurs signed him, again, we would have had, oh my God, all we're doing is signing kids. And all you've got to do is see how well he's been playing for Palace to understand that, you know, sometimes players are just oven ready, even at that age. And he just comes straight in, had an incredible tail end of last season, got into the England squad. And we saw how good he was in the run, Palace's run in the FA Cup. I'm okay with youth players, Sean. But we need experience. You're going to go to the Champions League on those big nights when you're playing the likes of your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas, or what have you. Their canny play. You need that experience, and that's when, you know, your Kuti Romeros, your Richarlisons, your Bentancurs, and your Porros come into play. But we need a couple more of those, I think.
Do you think that Adam Wharton's rise to prominence?
I love
because at the time, people were talking about Adam Wharton and Hayden Hackney, and there was a couple of others as well. Joe Bellingham was one. There's a couple of other players that were all kind of like emerging up at the same time. And then obviously Palace got hold of Wharton for 20, and then now he's worth like 75 or whatever. Do you think on the basis of that all of those players that are in that pocket of like probably going to make it from the Championship talent kind of levels, you've just seen Joe Bellingham going for 50, for example. Like, do you think that as a consequence of that Middlesbrough are going, well, I'm not going to sell him at 20 because I know that he's really a £50 million player? Or do you think that that's just that's the way, you know, that the price point is what the price point is?
I mean, listen, that's why, you know, the bit of business that Daniel Levy and Fabio got grief for signing when Conte was in charge, Jed Spence, now looks like a bloody bargain. You know, £20 million was a bargain. And, you know, I thought Walton was a
Can you stay there for 1 sec, mate? Sorry, buddy. Someone's at my door.
Yeah, that's right. I thought Adam Walton was an absolute steal from Blackburn for that amount of money, if I'm honest. But Hackney, I mean, he's had not bad season for Middlesbrough. But I think when you look around, there's quite a lot of snobbery coming from the Premier League, looking down at the Championship. So when I make the comment earlier in the season that I thought, well, coming towards the end of the season, that I thought Manor Solomon should be the one coming back to Spurs for pre-season for assessment, everyone said, nah, he's not good enough. Even with those stats, yeah, but it's in the Championship. Adam Walton was in the Championship. Archie Gray was in the Championship. There's, Eze was in the Championship. There's lots and lots of players that have come from the Championship and made their mark in the Premier League. So I think we need to stop with the snobbery and, start embracing them. I was just saying about the snobbery in the Premier League, looking down at the Championship. Hayden Hackney wouldn't be my first port of call, though, as much as I like a lot of the players in there. I looked at Joe Bellingham, quite honestly, and I think Borussia Dortmund are caught up in the Bellingham frenzy, if you want my honest opinion. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I think he's quite a few percentages down on his brother.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%. He's not. Yeah, of course. He's. And I think that going to the club when your brother came through, I personally think it's a silly move because they're always going to be compared, right? You've got to carve out your own path and taking the exact same path as your brother did. And look what happened to him. It's going to be a tough act to follow. I remember when I joined in the financing, when I moved into London, and I introduced myself to people when I was like 22 years old. I was like, "Oh, I'm Sean Butler," and they were, "Are you son of David Butler?" And I was like, "Yeah," and they went, "Okay," and you just knew from that moment that like people are going to compare you if they've been around the block a little bit, if they know you, and it's one of those like it's a millstone around your neck unnecessarily,
Yeah, well, listen, it's that's when you look at someone like Brennan Johnson, for example, his dad was famous, a well-known footballer, David Johnson. Is Brennan Johnson going to be a better player? You can
be a better player under Frank, though, mate. I think that Thomas Frank there's a massive improvement for him coming in. I really do.
Massive. Thomas Frank's going to say to me, Brennan, right? If you don't go past these players and you don't take these players on, I'll tell you what's happening. You're going to be sitting on that bench. That's what's going to be happening. He won't stand for it.
Yeah.
Football's tough. Yeah, you're going to get brought down. Yeah, you're going to get clobbered. That's it. You're going to win free kicks. You're going to win positions. You're going to draw defenders. Right now, if you keep being passive, which he has been for far too long, he needs to come on from back post Johnson. He's got the pace to do it. He just needs to add the bravery and the belief that he can add more to his game. And then I'll start giving him the respect that that he maybe deserves. Who
do you think top three? How much time we got? Time 5 or 6 minutes, right, before we got to go. Top three most improved players next season.
For me, it will be. I think Bergval's going to go to another level, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go for a strange one. Richarlison.
Okay.
Archie
is he 100% staying in your mind? Is he?
Yeah. Richarlison, Archie Gray.
Archie, you think Archie Gray will have a good year? Yeah.
I think he will have a better year. Yeah. I'm not saying he didn't have a good year, but I just think that we might see more strings to his bow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Odegaard. I'm going to go really sort of left field a bit.
He's a baller waiting to explode, that guy. I know there's something in there.
He just needs to be
told what to do, be in the right positions,
correct,
get himself, and then have the confidence to take on a man a bit more than he does at times. I'm going to say, because we're talking about baseline versus benchmark, right? So,
Richie's baseline.
Richie's baseline is not great, is it? So
yeah.
So but I also think that the Dom Solanke, for me, if he's reused as a traditional 9, I think he'll score 20 goals next season.
Yeah, no, he should do. He should do. If he stops dropping deep like his prime Harry Kane and starts playing like he did at Iriola, I mean, that's what I like Frank to look at first thing.
Here's a player that I can't wait to see.
100%. Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what system he works with. I think he's so unique that he's almost too unique.
He's got the legs. He's got the legs. Listen, I love Papa Sarr.
He just needs to slow down up here a little bit, like calmer.
I love him. He's a great player.
His ability to intercept is top of the game. I think he knows what's going to happen when he's sitting in around the center circle. He did it for the Europa League final, but that was just one of probably 15 examples I can remember him intercepting sensationally. It's just when he drives with the ball, he has this rush of blood when it comes to the final pass, the final offlay. If someone can, you say he's got a nasty shot on him, Ben. I felt the wrath of that shot when it's almost smacked me in the face on row 52 or whatever I'm in.
But you know what? That's Papa Sarr's got the best shot, and Papa Sarr, and this is why I wanted Eze. Papa Sarr is the only player in the squad, apart from Porro, who will willingly take on a shot from outside the box. If he could control the pass and control the shot and work on his shooting technique, he's going to score a lot more goals from outside the box. Papa Sarr, that's why I want Eze. Eze picks up the ball on that D, drops his shoulder, bang, bottom corner, top corner. We don't have...
You're a betting man. What do you reckon, Eze? Chance of Eze coming?
So it's got to be 50-50. I mean, it's all going to be down. Listen, it's not about his ability. It's will Daniel pay the money for a 27-year-old?
Not many. It's a new trend in football. Stefan Borson said, the Daniel Levy criticised for doing that, but he was one of the first to see that trend. And there's very few teams out there now that are paying 50 million quid for a player that's over the age of 26 because the sell-on value just depreciates so quickly.
There is none.
Through their contract,
There's none. I mean, you sign him for 60, 65 million, right? At 20.
Keep him for 3 years on a 5-year contract. You try and sell him, you're getting 30 for him, aren't you? Probably.
You won't even get that, I don't reckon. 30 years of age, you might, maybe 25, maybe 25, 30, maybe if you're a push. But listen, is it about return on your investment or is it about the team winning? And for me, there's certain players where you just have to pay the money and you bring them to the club. And Eze would be the game changer. And if Daniel Levy had an idea of reading the room, he's probably the one signing that would unite this fan base in common applause for signing such a player. I'm not saying Mbeumo wouldn't get applause, but I think Mbeumo he just really wants Man United, however long it takes for him to get there. So for me, Semenya, they want over 70 million. As I said, he signed a new contract to 2029. So you've got no hope of getting him out unless you play telephone numbers. Eze, I think, is the more realistic of the three.
Yeah. Love to see it. So, obviously, I think Eze's the dream. I think he's just such a perfect player because he can fill in the 10 in the time when Maddison and Decky are injured.
Correct.
Good news about Decky, apparently, that he's back walking. He's sort of ahead of schedule a little bit, but he's going to be out for months, clearly. So yeah, Maddison. I don't know about Maddison's still injured, isn't he? Maddison's not going to be fit for the start of the season. So.
Listen, I told you, Maddison. You cannot count on Maddison, and that's why I think we need to have a creative midfielder. We can't have one creative midfielder that's going to spend, 30% of the season missing or more. Especially when
you can't do what the other option is, which is like a Morgan Gibbs White, who's going to cost you 60 million quid, and then he's only a 10.
Yeah, but I think you're going to find that Spurs might be interested in Morgan Gibbs White.
I think we might be, but I feel like it's a bit of a problem for me because you can't sell Decky, you can't sell Maddison. Decky's no good on the right. Well, he's not no good, but he's better in the centre. And so you then end up having spent 50% of your budget on a player that then is competing for, like, if Tottenham are going to go and get a 10, That's one of those positions. I said before, I'm okay if Tottenham want to go young, homegrown, club trained or whatever for a fullback like Kyle Walker-Peters. Do I want the player? No. But can I understand the logic? It's more okay with me because in that position, we've already got fairly good depth in Udogie, Porro and Spence. I'd almost make the argument that if you can't get an Eze and you go and get a winger like Semenyo instead, for example, but that can't play in the 10, then given the fact that you have Decky and Maddison that are 10s that just are not quite fit for the start of the season, I'd almost make the argument that if you want to go and get a young, like a 10, 15 million pound player out of Belgium who happens to be a 10 specifically, that's okay with me because I know that around the corner you're going to have Maddison and Decky back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think with the Champions League, there is no respite, okay? There's no respite at all. You're going to be playing your top team, your best team in the Champions League, and then on the next week you're going to be playing them again. You know, absolutely. You need to, listen. We need depth. We need backup. I love Cliver as well, but again, you know, contracts expensive. I mean, they've sold Huijsen for 50 odd million. And they've sold, we're going to sign Kirkes for around 40 million.
Actually, Johnny, I know we've got to go, but I just had a thought there because someone just put in I think it was a joke, but he's called Alfie Devine, right? That young player. But actually, I think it's a really interesting point. Is that 10, 15 million pounds spray and play that I was just talking about? Is that Jamie Donnelly?
Well,
he's a 10, right? He's a 10 more than a win.
Listen, look, I hope that Jamie Donnelly comes back to the club. Right, I think what you're going to have is a situation where you're going to have Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore, Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips, Vuskovic, and a few others.
Yeah, Tyrese Hall, loads of them. JA. Yeah,
are going to be pre-season, and he's going to be looking at all these players, and he's going to have to make a decision. Don't forget, we got a real issue with our homegrown for the UEFA squad. So that's maybe where, you know, someone like Jamie Donnelly would come in. I definitely think I would keep Jamie Donnelly and Mikey Moore from a selfish perspective, but also from a future perspective, maybe another year loan for Jamie Donnelly. And if Mikey Moore's not going to get the game time, then he should go on loan as well. You know, whether it to be West Brom or Birmingham. Under Davis or Ryan Mason, I think maybe that's going to be. Well, I definitely think one of those three, whether it's Josh Keeley, Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore, will go to one of those two teams next season. But I would like to keep one or two of them personally.
Who would you rather keep at the club without knowing, like blindfolded around pre-season? No, last question for you: Manor Solomon or Mikey Moore?
I can't. I'm not doing that, but they're completely different. I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
They're not completely different players.
No, I think we need both. I think we need both.
For the season.
Yeah, I think we need depth. Sure.
You can't have to. You've got too many wingers, mate. You don't need 25 spots you can have.
You have something called injuries, and you have something called like 55 games in a season, mate.
So you want Solomon taking up a foreign spot. You want us to bring in Eze taking up another spot in the squad. You want us to bring in but another spot in the squad. You want us to keep Donnelly and Mikey Moore.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that we need homegrown. We've got no homegrowns in our Europa League. Sorry, our Champions League squad, because we got rid of all the goalkeepers now, right?
You mean club trained? You mean yeah?
Club trained.
Yeah.
All
right, listen. We'll continue. I'm going to continue to poke the bear there on the Manor Solomon story.
Later, we're going to do a show later tonight. Yeah. I've got to go now, but we'll do a show.
Please get up into the link there, guys, and smash the granny out of the Football Wink subscribe button for us.
We'll be back tonight, guys. We'll be back tonight.
Thanks very much for the super chat, Blake. Appreciate you very much, mate. And thank you to everyone who's joined us this morning. We will see you later on. I'll be doing a video later on with the dog, and then I'll see you back tonight for some more on Football Inc. Cheers, guys. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.